of the main reasons to create an association is to accept all the money you have, as well as that from Google, from sponsors, donations, as well as to actually expend money to organize a conference. So another example is the royalties from publishers. We get money through Amazon from the books we have. We also have a royalty scheme with back publishing, which generates a little bit of money. Another reason to have an association is so we can actually create and provide promotional material like whatever, including a website. Maybe to fund important development. It's not something we have done today, but it's something which we could do through swag. Important to scale our infrastructure, to buy new servers and to put these in place. So this slide is no longer valid. So that's all the reasons why we need an association, right? How does it look like? There is a Drupal community. Among the Drupal community, there is a number of so-called ambassadors. And the official name for these ambassadors is that they're permanent members of the association. And it's actually the permanent members who are the association. And among the permanent members, there is a board of directors. So a subset of these members make the board. It looks like this. The ambassadors, the role of the ambassadors is to sort of police the board. So they choose the board, and if they're unhappy with the board, they can replace the board or make changes to the board. And they also have to vote on changes which we make to the statutes. And the actual board of directors, they have the executive power. So they make decisions and execute on these decisions. Another important feature of the board is that these are individuals, not companies. So every board member is represented as an individual and votes as an individual. So what this gives us, the association, is there's a separation of powers. So this means that the association is meant to support the Drupal project by providing infrastructure, by providing promotional materials, by taking care of the website and things like that. But explicitly in our statutes, we say that the association doesn't control the technical roadmap of the Drupal project, meaning the association can decide what features should be in core. Neither can the association decide what features should be in CCK, in views, or anything like that. So that's up to the community, like it was always the case. It's been like 6 months until I saw these slides. Since last time I saw these slides. So how does it work? Who gets to decide? As I explained, it's the board of directors who decide, and we decide by voting. And for most of the decisions, we just need a normal majority vote. For more special decisions, a subset of them, we need a 2/3 majority. So if we want to make changes to the statutes or bylaws, we need a higher percentage of positive votes. If we want to disabandon the association, we need an even higher percentage. So there's exceptions carved out of this normal majority vote. Another question we sometimes get is, how do I become a permanent member? The answer to that question is you have to be accepted, meaning we vote on who gets to be a permanent member, and that's done by all the existing permanent members. So if you want to become a director of the association, you first have to become a permanent member, and to do that, we just have to cast a vote. That's how you get in. So I think I covered all of these. The website. So I guess this is the point where we can start the demo, or just a brief introduction. Set the scene.
So I guess something we could do is talk about what the Drupal Association has been up to this past year, because it was about this time last year when we were giving a presentation about what it was going to be. So one thing that we've done is we actually fit. We filed paperwork. we've elected a board of directors, which, you know, all the kind of set-up-y kind of stuff that you need to do in order to get an association off the ground. We've done some work with setting up a treasury. We've been able to collect large sums of money from people like Google and also numerous companies and individuals who have donated. And thank you very much for that money, because it's helping out with cool events like this, and it's helping out with server infrastructure improvements and stuff. Gerhard's done an amazing job working with the OSL people, now that we have an actual infrastructure manager, which is cool. We were able to address some of the performance issues on Drupal.org, probably not as fast as some people would like, but I mean, we had a server go down in flames. We were able to replace that in very short order. We were able to do some database performance enhancements and things like that, which is really important. We've also donated money as the association to OSL, who's our hosting provider, Open Source Lab, as a way to kind of thank you for all of the stuff that you've done, and that really is good for both us as a project to do those kind of things, and also the OSL is a great organization that's hosting all sorts of open source projects and things like that. We've helped events like CrossCon, providing support and swag and things like that. We've helped with this event, providing personnel. Bert did a really good job helping with this students down here. But anyway, and things like that. Probably other stuff that I'm forgetting, but yeah, we've been busy trying to sort of get off the ground and you know, get things organized.
Yeah, I mean, think basically this event would not have happened if we didn't have an association with a bank account that could move 20,000 euros in and out of. Those kinds of things used to go through company accounts or, God forbid, Dries' personal PayPal account with tax implications and all sorts of other scary stuff. I think really that was one of the main things. If nothing else, the association needed a checking account to do those sorts of things. I think we've all had kind of a forming period in, like Angie said, a lot of the setup and all the rest of it. And now it's moving on to, okay, what are the big challenges that the association should tackle? How do we solicit from the community which one of those perhaps they think, combined with what we think, should be done? And then how the hell do we execute them with all having day jobs? Because we have an association and we have people in the association, but we still don't have anyone whose day job is Drupal.
Sure, there are no employees of the project, no paid employees.
So why don't we take some questions?
What kind of entity are you, and where are you incorporated, established?
So we're a Belgian non-profit incorporated in Belgium.
And Belgian foundations have certain rules and statutes and so on.
Back?
There are no employees. Is that a good thing, or is that going to change, or could it change?
I wanted to highlight that because it's a big question mark, and I think one of the things we found is that there's forming the association doesn't mean there's magically more time that the people up here can spend on Drupal, and so that's exactly one of those things, right? Should we have an employee? You know, you heard the business talk yesterday that Mike gave, right? Is that a role for the association? You know, there's question marks around those things. And then we need to do things like have a budget that can support, you know, do we need an office then? And if we go that route, do we now need to start raising an order of magnitude more funds? Question mark.
But you got an order of magnitude more folks coming into Drupal.
Exactly. So all of those same sort of challenges that the community itself is facing, we're going, how do we tackle that? So
We spend a lot of time saying we're not going to do this. You know, like that's not important. That's important, but we're not going to do it. There's like a couple hundred things where pretty much if I sat down and we made a list of everything that you think the Drupal Association should be doing, we've got that list, and about 198 of those 200 things we're too busy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I have the same question as him, but now as I hear about this, yeah, it would be interesting what your goals are, what you think, what the big challenges are. It would be interesting to hear about.
I mean, you want to just go from right to left and have everybody answer that a little bit? personally? What do you think the big goals and challenges?
Sure. Right to left for them. So, let's start here. Do you want to start?
Yeah, well,
Go for it. We should vote whether we should go right to left or right.
We have members of the board.
I'm doing the infrastructure stuff, so I actually got approved a budget of, what is this?
20,000.
50,000 euros or so.
20.
Some number.
Okay, yeah, well, some amount this week, and we ordered then a new server, a new database server, because we simply outgrown the one we got as a present from Sun. And so we need a new one. This is one is bought. It has been shipped to Portland, and it is actually online. I can see its stats, and it's been played all over the world. So yeah, we can evaluate how it performs and so on before we make it our main server. So there's still some money left, and I might end up buying another web node also. That's the short-term stuff. Long-term, buy more servers, make Drupal actually be usable on more servers. There are some problems. Yeah, that's about it.
So I would second that, the whole time this association has been alive has been a struggle for Drupal.org, in my opinion, to stay up and fast and helpful for people. And so that's been a big focus of Gerhard in particular, but all of us, to make decisions quickly about money and allocate money, and even so, we're not in total control of our infrastructure. We have partners that are also volunteers, the open source labs, and so that's been a challenge for us. And so, how do we handle that long term? Do we stay with open source labs? Do we go commercial for hosting? It's an open issue with the association talks about it a lot, and people who want to talk about that more, I'd be happy to talk. But I think making Drupal.org fast and useful is a major challenge for us.
For my part, most of my duties on the association are helping with kind of internal communications and organizing us and that kind of stuff. I'd like to push a lot of those efforts, my efforts more externally, so I do a better job of communicating what the association is doing with the Drupal community and for the Drupal community, and kind of get some dialogue there. That was really my intent, but I was kind of, when you're a new association, you don't really know where the boundaries are and things like that. So I think this first year has been sort of a learning process and just sort of figure out how everything works. And I think in the second year we can start being more open and interactive and things like that about and transparent, I guess, about what's going on. Another thing that I love to focus on, but probably won't have enough time, is a redesign of Drupal.org. I've done some work on sort of information architecture and how that might be structured, which is on the group site, if you're interested. But that's something that I feel is a major area that we can stand to improve a lot in, and the Drupal Association is a perfect entity to sort of organize that. So that's something I'm doing.
So in general, I agree with everything which has been suggested and said up to now. The biggest challenge, I think, maybe for me or for the Drupal Association, is how can we make the Drupal Association grow beyond its current board, for example? How can we attract more people through the association which fill in certain gaps? Like, we need someone who can do legal stuff, for example. We might need someone who is, stronger at marketing, or we have the time to actually do marketing-related efforts, these kind of things. So, if people are interested in becoming a board member or a permanent member of the association, and you have the titles, contact us. So that's about it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff that's been focused on so far has been purely needs-based. As part of going from zero and trying to get up. The association formed and Drupal.org servers were on fire, so we had to put out fires. In terms of long-term goals personally, my interest in the association was purely triggered by the board and community ambassador. For some reason, that kind of title or position really kind of struck a chord in me, I guess, and so kind of looking ahead in terms of goals, lots of ideas about how to better bring Drupal to new communities. So, be an ambassador to the community outside our lovely community. So, working with educational institutions, bringing awareness to students about Drupal and free software in general. So personally, I do, a fair bit of speaking and stuff, kind of because I like to. I would, like to bring more of that kind of activity to the association and use association resources to that end.
There's sort of two things. I'm Kieran from Kieran. Actually, I'm Kieran from I'm wearing my individual hat. There's two things that I'm focused on. One of them is money, and the other one is the principles. So I'll start out with the principles of Drupal. I think there's something bigger going on in the world than just the Drupal software. We're part of this movement of sharing and intellectual collaboration and creativity that's going on worldwide, and it's an incredible thing. It's an incredible feeling, and I've seen things get successful to a point and falter, and so I want to push for those principles of openness and push for those principles of collaboration and this sort of human sharing of content and information, but also the process of creating it together and shepherd that for a few years if I can. So the Drupal Association is one way to get that done, is to get the legal entities and get the resources behind it to defend those principles over the long term. So that's what I spend my time on, and one of the things I'll be interested in is I need to recruit more board members. This is my fourth nonprofit board, and the most successful things that I've done in boards in the past is made the boards so much better than when I was on them. and that's partially because the association will change and has new needs, but we need to be out there recruiting people who are capable of defending us. So we may find ourselves having to defend the Drupal trademark worldwide in a corporate legal battle in 2009. So what are we going to do to get a lawyer in place to do that? Or we've got to do some marketing to take on free software to go up against the giant software giants. So we may need a marketing person to help do that. So that's one thing. The second thing is money. Everything is volunteers. It's just volunteer. And I think like a requirement to be on the Drupal Association is unrealistic ability to manage what's possible or something along those lines. I mean, we're just all really busy. And so frequently in the real world, this gets solved with money. And so I've kind of been going out there and like sticking my nose into places and getting punched in the nose and getting kicked in the butt in an effort to raise money. And so the two things I've focused on are advertising on Drupal.org, and I'm going to try to raise a bunch of money for that. And it's frustrating for me, like WordPress, for example, they have one link on their WordPress.org/hosting, and they're getting a company's giving them $1 million a year for that one link, and then like Gerard and I will spend 8 months on the infrastructure mailing list talking about query optimization and how to tune my.conf because we can't come up with the $1,200 to buy RAM. And then when the association came into place, it was like, okay, can we buy RAM? Yeah, okay, $1,200 in RAM. We just solved every problem that 18 million users have been suffering per month or something like that because we can write a check. So that's been nice. Or we can buy software. So money through the Drupal Association, through advertising, is one business model, and the other one is memberships. We're going to charge money for the Drupal Association and try to get everybody to pitch in $30 for individuals and $100 for corporations, for organizations, and then we'll raise some money that way. And then we can do things like what Joomla does, which is fly all their core developers from 5 continents around the world to get together and write code for a week, and not just come and give talks, but actually do core development together for days. And then they also fund plane tickets and hotels for people that go to conferences. Boris has been trying to get us to go to HozCon for years, and everybody's too busy, but if we had a plane ticket and we had a hotel for you, would somebody here go? Probably, right? And yeah. Okay, so money and defending those principles. That's what we're looking for.
That was awesome. Thank you, Kieran. So we're very lucky to have Kieran because he's actually been on foundations before, so that's a fantastic thing. So for myself, I am going to try and continue to wear the two hats that I've always worn from the very beginning, as being the first commercial entity that did anything with Drupal, and then being a really passionate community member, and being the first sort of like non-coding evangelist. And so to continue that, I really am a big fan of the concept of membership, and that people can pay for something and say, yes, I've contributed directly to Drupal, to the Drupal Association. And we can show that and potentially build things around that. Everything from a LinkedIn group for if you're a member of the Drupal Association. I don't know how many of you are on LinkedIn. It's more or less useful. It's very good if you're doing lots of business-oriented things. And then, yeah, really growing things out and aiming for really lofty goals, right? So Kieran talked about defending principles and so on. In Canada, where I am, very few university students get taught about open source. Yet, most of the commercial open source activity happens in North America, whereas most of the programmers are in Europe. So, in the next 4 years, can the Drupal Association and other open source entities help fund 4 chairs in open source at 4 major Canadian universities and start giving courses? A third-year course in CCK. Why not? Let's aim for those sorts of things, right? And at the same time, exactly, growing the community. We have 420 people here today from a range of different backgrounds. You know, I would have really liked to have seen in the intro when we said, okay, how many people are here from Europe? And a bunch of hands went up, right? But in many ways, the market here is much, much more splintered. I would have loved to see, okay, and from each country. You know, I've already talked to people from Spain and from Italy and other places that are starting to just get started. And I'd love to have the association support more of that. You know, with Drupal 6 and some of this install profile stuff, we can now support language-specific downloads. So every language community, including Esperanto, could now have a dedicated download directly from Drupal. How much more will that grow our community? Frankly, I'm a little frightened. So those are the sorts of things. And the other kind of wearing the hat is to try and connect with businesses and business entities and help them grow their businesses in a way that integrates, gives them the things they need, and gives the community the things that it needs. And you know, we're kind of going through this wobbling back and forth phase, and we're, you know, I'm confident that we're going to take off again like a rocket, but there's lots more that we need to get to. And like Kieran, I want myself off this board and replaced with someone more effective, you know, so that I can put back only the community ambassador hat and work on some of those things. So I'd really like to, and I've had lots of personal things go on that I wish I could have put more into the association, but at the end of the day, you know, we do what we can do, and I encourage everyone to do that. And, you know, ready to kick some more ass in the next year.
Wow, and I have to go after that. Being more the community ambassador and less the member of the board trying to get stuff done, I don't have as much to say as Boris or Kieran, but I can say that the struggles that we've had in the first year of determining what places to actually put our resources has been a lot harder than it may seem. We're getting donations, we've got money incoming, and once you have money incoming, it starts to seem like, hey, things are great, but then you realize there's 1,000, I mean, I think Kieran was underestimating when he said 200, there's 1,000 places we could be putting that money, but there's only so much. And more important than the money at the moment, there's also only so many resources. Like, we're all volunteers, we all only have so much time, and we're trying to do a lot, and possibly too much, even with what we have now. The first place we had to put our resources was Drupal.org, because we've been trying to keep it stable, and after several months we have finally succeeded. I actually haven't had timeouts on Drupal.org in a while, but that has meant we have missed other opportunities because that was much more important, and we need to find the resources and, like Kieran has been working on, get more money so that we can follow these other opportunities, because we need to do more marketing and more public relations to try and push Drupal in areas that it currently isn't. Drupal is not alone in this market space, and the other competitors in this market space do a lot more marketing than we do. And we know, believe it or not, we do know that simply having a superior product, or what we feel is a superior product, is not enough to maintain our market share even as an open source platform. We have to make sure that there are people out there who continue to use Drupal and that we continue to grow so we don't get eclipsed. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge we face is making sure that we're able to enter new market spaces and expand and grow and make sure that Drupal continues to do what it's done for the last 3 years, which is phenomenal.
Questions? Right there.
Yeah, I really think the work you guys are doing has been awesome in the last year. I mean, that you're able to get the infrastructure in place and everything is really support. I mean, there's a lot of trust and a lot of value there. And what I'm curious about is, you know, how can we set up a structure, a system to get more resources to the association? Because it's clear, I know every one of you has like 80-hour days, you know, like, right, that's how much work you have in a day, and and you don't have the time to do it, and they like say like, we can throw out all kinds of great ideas, here's how to raise money, and here's this, but you're not gonna, it's just the same thing, it's like, we don't have the time, so, are there ideas or are there solutions already in place about how to like take more of the community, you know, the 400 people here and the thousands out there, you know, that can then have a way to input contribution, you know, and I'm thinking like, are there regular conference calls, are there email lists, are there ways people sign up for stuff, or do we have like fundraising days, you know, things like that.
So I think for starters, you know, we talk about something like marketing and promotion. There are things in place for that to happen today, and it's not happening, right? groups.drupal.org/Drupal-marketing. So I think there are existing community structures that can happen there, like literally. Let's go to the marketing group, let's work on a new version of the brochure, and then let's put a proposal into the association to get $5,000 to get 50,000 brochures printed. All of that can happen without the participation of the association up until the exact final point, which says, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, let's put that to a board vote, if that's going to be a valuable thing to do. And look, all these people in the community have said they could do that. So I would encourage people to use all of the existing interaction things to come up with ideas, and the next final bit for that is bring it all the way to put down a concrete proposal. If it gets tossed over the fence with, you should do this idea, we're absolutely not going to have the time. But if folks who are passionate about doing particular things can organize themselves and take it all the way to a fairly concrete proposal on, probably you don't need to come to the association unless you need money to execute on your plan. So take that all the way to the end and then say, okay, and here's our proposal, here's how we're going to execute and get stuff done, and we need X dollars to make it happen.
Can I just address something? So you're actually already doing it, and I want to applaud Civic Actions for sponsoring a room, because it's, you know, it's those things, it's the little thing that we, you know, that we felt that was the least we could do, and everybody doing that, and tens of thousands of people doing that. The dirty little secret about this is it's an unbelievably selfish thing that we do, because we get back so much for what we give. And you know, every time I don't spend enough time working on Drupal and working with the quality of these people, I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, I could have gone and made money, but if I helped these people, it was such a better experience. I helped so many more people. It was such a great thing to do. So just keep giving back, and then it just snowballs. It's so amazing.
I think kind of to that point, and then we'll go to questions. I mean, and one of the things or maybe it's just me, but one of the things I struggle with is where that line between the association and the community really is. And I think Boris says, you know, if you come down to where, oh, well, we need $10,000 that we don't have, then that's kind of the obvious place to go to the association. But I mean, we're all, you know, community members too, right? And working, you know, I mean, personally, I'm not sure, you know, if I'm working within the community, am I doing so as the association or just as me? So yeah, I mean, just doing the things that you're doing already, you know, donating, you know, coming up with ideas, all the groups on groups.drupal.org, you know, I mean, that stuff is helping already. Yeah, so keep it up.
It's just great to hear that, like, you can put in a formal proposal or not, or just get on the board. And I would love to just know, like, is there a public association list that we belong to, or is it just participating?
We have posts that we do on association.drupal.org, so there's an RSS feed for that. The other thing that we have set up is we've talked about the Mozilla Foundation. People who work for that actually blog their progress reports on their own personal sites. Like this week, this is what I did for Mofo, and we've talked about that same thing, using that and aggregating that back to the association. So there is that extra level of transparency in there. So that's sort of the plan right now, and to literally use that out in the open. Some of the other pieces, there's some funky bits around things like our statutes. Like we can't actually publicly post minutes at this point of meetings, because in our statutes it says we can't. It's one of the things that we've kind of said, well, actually, let's change that statute. So does that kind of better answer the question around future plans around transparency?
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting it's not transparent.
Okay.
It's more that I want to have a place. Your limited resources, we have a huge community of people that want to contribute. Let's bridge the gap. How do we do that?
Well, growing the members of the association and members of the board is absolutely on the table. Yeah, I mean, it's like that's the kind of level you're interested in.
There's like a question in the back here.
Yeah, Larry, sorry.
Could you and I speak after, because that's something I would love to get rebroadcast. So let's speak.
I'm just curious, like with the conversation that Doris is having about, is we have a huge member community, and everybody's time is very limited time. Everybody's really busy, and the Drupal demand is increasing. So how do we create the leadership that we need to organize these groups? I think it's like priority to us. Because a lot of people want to contribute, a lot of people are members of groups, and they go to groups and they post, but there's no real leadership that like put forward. And to me, the idea of like maybe like spending 6 hours of my time and maybe like 12 hours of the rest of my team's time to come up with a proposal that might be denied at the last minute, like that's 20 hours that I could have worked, make money or whatever it is. So how do we find the balance into like creating like projects that are sustainable, finding leaders to maintain each one of the groups that exist, like either a leader like the marketing section, a leader in promotion and so forth, so that there's actually like maybe a middle management level that is being created by the community to provide support and ongoing resources to people before it even has to go to the board. I'll second that.
Okay, so I don't like your.
The time to do it, but everybody's already contributing so much of their time. So how do we find the leadership to make sure that the people that are giving their time are giving their time properly and it's well coordinated? Like yesterday in the debug session, like one thing that we could do as a Drupal group is on the 17th of every month, we all spend 3 hours on Skype or AIM or whatever the heck we want to use, IRC, and we all debug, we all theme, we all template, we all document. 4 hours a month, but 4 hours a month time like thousands and I don't know how many members are we at now in Drupal.org?
180,000.
Shitload of time, man. Like, how do we use that time? Should we add it?
So what I didn't like about that phrase was like the whole I spent 18 hours and then my proposal didn't get accepted. Don't start there, right? Like do the same community process. Yeah, right. In that you go out and you say, what about this idea? 2 other people jump on, 3 other people go on. You self-organize. To date, the leadership has arisen ad hoc in the community. I don't personally see that changing because we don't anoint people.
Self-organized community is not leadership.
It is.
Self-organized community doesn't talk to each other.
It is.
Self-organized community is divided and needs to come back and work together.
The evidence is to the contrary, right?
Well, how many people here are working on the same type of module, and then like when they come into a room, they realize that somebody had actually written a module that saved them 30 lines of code. Like it happens on a regular basis. So it is not the best of scenario, and I agree that we've done really well in the last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of our Drupal existence. But we need to take that to the next level and organize the resources that we have. The revolution is not going to happen with just
make a proposal.
So I have a thought about this. It's really great just sitting here talking to you guys as the Drupal Association, right? because when you were doing the roundtable of what you thought the critical things were, it was very eye-opening to me, to hear Gerhard talk about scalability and being in Portland and stuff. Like, I just moved to Portland, so if you need somebody on the ground to spend some time with them, or and like I that didn't dawn on me before. And so what I'm saying is, what you've laid out by going down the line is sort of your priority queue and sharing that vision with us. And I think one of the ways to bridge that gap would be to put out, for lack of a better term, requests for proposals. It's sort of saying, here's what we think are the critical things, and if you submit proposals for this, we're going to take them seriously, because these are the things that are on our radar. And it'd be really great.
Yeah, just the thing on the whole proposal writing, and I don't think it's published yet, but we're working on, so Robert Douglas, who's not here but also a member of the association, has spent a lot of time writing up a document on basically how to write an effective proposal for the association. I don't think it's
specifically
yet, but
specifically actually for one of the things of I would like to host a DrupalCon. How do I make that happen?
Yeah.
You write a proposal, and a specific DrupalCon event proposal, right, which proves that you can actually put 420 people in Barcelona at some date in the future, right? I've heard 3 people come up to me and say, I want to hold the next DrupalCon in City X in February. And I'm like, okay, it's a huge job. This is the first one that I haven't been involved in organizing whatsoever, and I'm loving it. So, submit a proposal.
Larry's had his hand up for about 15 minutes.
That's fine, no problem. A couple of things you mentioned is evangelizing the ideals of open source and free software, and I'll say amen. Also, that a much larger question than just the Drupal Association. For that sort of thing, have you looked at what other organizations you can partner with? Like, maybe not Free Software Foundation, because they're very about it, but you're saying sometimes endowed chair at university, things like that, to help push free software ideals and Drupal. Who else could we partner with for that? I don't think Drupal Association itself could do that, but could we have like an open source evangelist at the university? I know there are schools that have faculty that are also on Microsoft payroll.
Yep.
Who else can we partner with?
So it's I kind of brought it up as one of these long-term things. Step 1, find other interested projects and organizations that have time to commit. Step 2, talk to large corporations and national governments to put funding together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you have ideas and feel passionate about it, let's make a group on groups.drupal.org dedicated to going through with that. And start gathering names, and this is the kind of thing exactly where we can extend it outside of the association. I can say, this is what I'm passionate about, and I'll lead the charge inside the association. Let's work on it outside until we get to, a proposal. We don't even need a proposal for that thing, but then it's like, send Larry to FOSDEM, or whatever it's going to be, right?
Gentleman at the back.
Yeah. Well, I have experience in a not-for-profit security organization. I used to be the international board there. And I had a ton of communications that sometimes not went anywhere. When I organized for this conference, the department for a couple of people here, and I had like 50 emails just for that. So what I'm interested in, could you maybe just to help people to understand what kind of job it is to become part of the board of the association, to say how many hours do you spend on it? A week, a month? Is there any way that you could cut it up so that, for example, if you are an ambassador for a specific community, do you have to attend all the board meetings online? Do you have weekly chats, or what does it really practically mean to be a board member, and how much time does it take? Because if you tell that, if you specify that, then probably it makes it easier for people to say okay, I can commit to that because I know I have that time, or I don't have that time.
Well, I would say it varies depending on what stuff that you're passionate about. I know Kieran has probably spent stupid amounts of hours on all the advertising stuff and fundraising and things.
On everything. Stupid amounts of hours on everything is the answer for Kieran.
But then there are others who, because of family obligations or whatever, aren't able to commit quite as much time. I would say probably on average, maybe 5 or 10 hours a week at the most. and varying, of course, depending on what you're doing. What our usual workflow is, we keep in contact via the mailing list. And there's two tiers or whatever of being an association member. There's being an association member or a community ambassador, and then there's being on the board. If you're on the board, then you have I guess they're monthly most of the time, a monthly meeting over IRC where we do the actual voting on whatever proposals have been in that period. And those take 2 hours, and we cap it at 2 hours, so anything that doesn't make it in on that time is pushed to the next board meeting. So time-wise commitments, it's mostly up to you and what you plan to focus on. But I think when we're considering new board members, we would kind of want them to be taking on an area that's not already covered by one of the people up here, and or someone who does have time and is like, you know, that thing you were talking about fundraising? Well, I have lots of contacts, and that's something I'm passionate about, and I would love to assist with that sort of thing. So, does that help? Okay.
Everybody at once. I think this gentleman right there.
Yeah. I really appreciate the freshness of the philosophy behind what you're doing. It's very, very keen and tonight. I have a specific question on the slide that you're showing me, and that's there's a corporate membership that's paid for until those and then there's individual membership. Does corporate get advisory votes?
No.
There was an old slide.
Yeah, we did away with all that.
That was a slide. Was an old slide.
Okay, so what's happening there now?
We're going to do $100 for an organization membership and $30 for thing, but it doesn't give you voting rights or anything like that.
There's no advisory vote.
Yeah. And just so you know, like a lot of what we do and a lot of what we've done is, oh, look at how that open source project that's now dead or dying made this decision and is going away. And so we're very careful about navigating through the landmines.
Or looking at the successful ones, right? We spend a lot of time, you know, watching and talking to, like, the Mozilla Foundation, for instance, and trying to learn what we can. I mean, especially in kind of the startup phase, right? Like, you know, what works, what doesn't, you know, pitfalls you should avoid.
But like that's of great interest, though. That what you're learning there. Is there any repository for that information that you're making available?
We haven't really compiled it yet, but I think that would be very valuable.
Yeah, some of it is from private communications on free and open source software foundation mailing lists that in fact Reese has access to, but the rest of us don't even have. So it's a little tough, but definitely I think there's some of it, and there's certain things that need to be figured out on a per project basis. I can guarantee you, well, it's already been asked, you know, why aren't you an American 501(c)(3), right? And there's all sorts of reasons, and you know, at the end of the day, Brussels checking account, done for now, right?
Like the do's and don'ts of creating a foundation, I think it's really useful what you guys do.
Well, I have a question to the association authority. Well, I'm based in London right now, but I'm from Japan originally, and I was looking for the information on Drupal in Japanese, and noticed that Drupal.jp, the official Japanese Drupal community or site, is not really functioning, and there's another group that's supporting Drupal is a bit more popular, and there are basically conflicts between these two groups, and it seems that Drupal.jp did something bad for the community in the past, and the group of people got really mad at them and just left and created a new group. Well, that's fine, but then they started to kind of harass each other, and they don't even have links to each other's site. I mean, the situation is slightly better now. The new group is aggregating feed from the official site and stuff, but still they don't mention about each other. And what's really bad is that they both release translation of Drupal individually, and then Drupal.jp releases it as official Drupal translation, you know, trying to kind of differentiate. trying to put more value on it or something. But it's really a waste of effort. I mean, Drupal, and this is all about collaboration.
Right.
So not only a Japanese problem.
Right. So one of the things is, we're here to support the Drupal project, and the Drupal project is about collaboration. And so I'm not sure what their answer is, but we need to maybe make some phone calls and remind them, principles of Drupal is collaboration.
Is there any way, I mean, do you have the actual, the association have the authority to kind of intervene, or?
I think for starters, one of the actionable tasks might be, because a lot of that will be human communication. I mean, I know Gerhard has sort of sometimes chosen which community link to put on the official community pages, right? I love tossing that in Gerhard's lap. It's awesome. But as an actionable thing, should the Drupal Association take control of Drupal.country code in every single country? Probably.
So one way to fix it, and this is just an idea, is to move all these sites to one infrastructure, or at least to manage their domains.
Yeah.
We could do, I think Ben suggested it last time, to actually make it KR or gp.drupal.org. So whenever something happens, we can redirect it to a new site.
Yeah, but it wouldn't just for me, you need actually somebody to read it.
That was the first I'd ever heard of it, because I didn't know.
So maybe you could actually go to the association mailing list and write us an email with the details as you understand them, and maybe you can help us, because we don't have any native Japanese speakers, to help communicate back and forth. I think that's one of that's why I said about multi-language communities. It's one of the failings that we have, is at the end of the day, we're fairly English-centric, except, we just happen to have a smattering of other languages that we can, right? So could you do that for us?
Yes, I'd love to.
Fantastic.
But you control Drupal main URL. Are we still going to do that? Anybody that uses Drupal training, Drupal can, Drupal main URL.
There's a policy being written out.
Yeah. So Dries owns the trademark on the word Drupal. So as far as claiming official status as Drupal.jp, I mean there probably is something. One thing I think Dries mentioned is, we're looking for legal resources as well as we kind of draft, trademark policies.
If you look at Ubuntu's, that's the one that, why is Bert here? Why is he not up here?
He was here.
He's right there.
Why are you not up here?
Get up here. Get up here.
We've got a plant in the crowd.
Let's get a couple more questions. And I'm going to go to that room right at the end when we're done, and I'm going to talk to people who want to become board members. Okay, go ahead.
You started off with consistency with lack of time, and the fact that you potentially should have somebody working full-time on the board.
Yep.
Is there a general feeling in terms of who that should be and what role they should be taking? So, for example, this is saying Dries is going to be full-time, and the board is going to pay for it, or are you talking more at an administrative level?
I'll take out at least one of the positions that we have seriously talked about funding is an infrastructure person who is responsible for Drupal.org to make sure it is up and alive and kicking. And it could be someone on our side, it could be someone who's employed by Open Source Labs that we fund them to hire someone. I think that would be
likely a short term.
Employee number one might be that kind of person. At the same time, there are great other kinds of people that we might want to employ. So I'm not quite sure who employee number one might be, but that would be a possibility.
Yeah. The ones that have been talked about, there have been others like hiring an actual full-time PR person, hiring an event coordinator, but yeah, there's something kind of lower level, but it's someone where they can focus on specific tasks, right?
And also, some of the companies in the audience, they might, for example, contribute a person, right? Yeah. We don't actually have to hire them ourselves. If you have someone on staff, you can, allow him to work 2 days a week for the Drupal Association. We have a lot of work we can upload to that person. So.
Yeah, I was going to, just to that point, I'm sure you're all probably very keenly aware of how money can really be the biggest problem, and that it could end up being an 800-pound gorilla that just wreaks havoc
because where there's money politics. And I see a lot of red flags in terms of hiring people, because then there's the potential for resentment of, well, they should have hired me, or they should have hired them, or whatever. Why did that person get the job?
Well, that's another thing. I mean,
and so it seems like, really, for the association to thrive, it seems like you really need volunteer help to help make this happen, so that the money can be focused on helping support the community through, like helping support user groups, helping support education programs. I mean, what Boris described is the same thing in the United States. You go to computer science departments and they haven't heard of open source. You know, they're all, you know, it's like we're outside of the realm. And so, I don't know, yet at the same time, the structure of the organization seems very close. And I've heard a lot of people say this, and it's sort of like, well, you can give money, but you don't have a say. And so I'm wondering how you're thinking of addressing that and trying to open this up so that the community really feels a part of it, instead of feeling like something secret is happening and the community can sort of come to a meeting and confront you in a room, but then otherwise it's sort of outside of the circle.
I think my answer over here on the sort of like going forward extra level stuff answered most of those things about extra interaction. You know, I agree with some of the volunteer and money politics things, but I think specifically like making it someone's day job to sit at the kill switch of Drupal.org so the site teams up is something that you cannot do on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, essential services, systems administration, lawyer, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Well, the other thing we talked about, I mean, there's very, very clear languaging in statutes that we are not here to control the development of the thing. And so we're very good at attracting developers and users, getting better at some designers even. You know, attracting lawyers and attracting system administrators and attracting, you know, these kinds of people. It's those kinds of positions that aren't, you know, just like, hey, I want to give back because, you know, my law firm's been using Drupal for years. So, yeah, it's those kinds of positions that are most likely to be for money, and not, you know, some developer has been hired by the association to fix, you know, X bugs.
One last question.
We're very sensitive to that, and we're also, like, I'm on a special mailing list together with presidents of the Mozilla Foundation, Eclipse Foundation, Apache Foundation, like all of these other open source foundations. And some of them have tried it. There's lessons learned, and we're trying to, you know, incorporate their advice in our strategy as well. So.
One last question from somebody who hasn't asked the question yet. Okay, great.
There was talk yesterday about